two words can make many people cringe, as high school isn't always a pleasant thought or experience. It's a place of learning, growing, and education, but it's also a dramatic, challenging, and stressful world. Those of us in high school can probably all relate, and those of you who did attend high school can probably remember an experience that goes along with these words. For the average teenager, high school life can be a daily struggle. We're expected to get up early and go to school where we sit still and learn for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. We're then expected to go home and balance after school life, do homework, and get to bed at a decent time. It seems impossible to meet these requirements fully, and it almost is. Teenagers are often tired and exhausted because school starts too early in the day, which can affect their performance. Many adolescent development specialists have said that by starting school earlier in the day, sleep is lessened, which can affect teenagers' safety, health, and performance in school. The American Academy of Pediatrics has recommended that high schools start at 8:30 or later in order for teenagers to get the amount of sleep that they need. Logically, with these statistics, it makes sense to then start school at 8:30 so that teenagers can get the amount of sleep that they need, increasing their performance and health. Let's see if this proves true with the 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And lastly, will it be beneficial to all concerned? First, is it the truth that pushing high school to a later start time will increase student performance and health? When teenagers don't get enough sleep, they lack in other skills that can deteriorate their health and performance. Journalist Amanda Macmillan tells us that chronic sleep loss among teenagers has been associated with poor school performance, as well as a higher risk for depressive symptoms, obesity, cardiovascular problems, risk-taking behaviors, and athletic injuries. When pushing school back later would not only solve these problems, but could also boost health and performance. Dr. Judith Owens tells us about an experiment done at her daughter's school to help the problem. She says that the school conducted an experiment to measure the impact of shifting the arrival from 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. That half-hour difference increased student satisfaction, gave kids an extra 45 minutes of sleep, and students were less likely to fall asleep in class or while doing homework. When we get enough sleep, that makes us healthier and more alert during the day. So yes, it is the truth that pushing the start of school back later would increase student performance and health. Second, is pushing high school to a later start time fair to all concerned? Well, it's definitely fair for teenagers because they're getting an extra hour of sleep each morning, but it's not just fair for them. Teachers, parents, and other adults who work with the schooling business would also be able to sleep in later. Contrarians, most commonly adults, say, well, if teenagers are so tired, then why don't they just go to bed earlier in the evening? Macmillan also gives us an answer to this when she says that teenagers' brains begin producing the sleep-inducing hormone melatonin on a delayed schedule, making it difficult for them to fall asleep before 11 p.m. The authors then write, a teenager who goes to bed at 11 p.m. would need to sleep in until 7:30 a.m. or later in order to obtain sufficient sleep. Therefore, pushing school back later is fair because everybody gets more sleep. Third, would pushing high school to a later start time build goodwill and better friendships? Yes, because if students are more alert during the day, they would be more willing to interact with those around them, creating a better bond within the student body. Classroom settings usually have those students who tend to not like to do their work and show more attitude. This makes the individual look bad in the eyes of the teacher and in the eyes of the students around them. Students that act this way most commonly do this because they're tired, so pushing the start of school back later would prevent or lessen these behaviors. Fourth, is starting school at a later time, would it be beneficial to all concerned? When school starts later, that means students and adults would get more sleep, but how else is it beneficial? Journalist Lisa L. Lewis tells us that pushing the start of school back later could lead to an increase in attendance rates and therefore more money for some places. She says later start times can be less missed school. Absences dropped 15% in Bonneville County, Idaho after the school instituted such a change. She then says, in states such as California, where state funding is tied to attendance, it follows that later start times could translate into extra dollars. Megan Riley, Chief Financial Officer, has estimated that boosting attendance by just 1% district-wide could bring in an additional $40 million per year. With all of these benefits, it proves that pushing the start of school back later would definitely be beneficial to all concerned. To wrap it up, we need sleep. Sleeping makes us healthier, more alert, and allows for the maximum potential to do things each day. The only way for teenagers to get a sufficient amount of sleep is by pushing the start of school back by 1 hour to start at 8:30. That way, attendance rates would increase, and some school districts would gain additional revenues. But most importantly, we as students will be healthier and do better in school, which is what every teacher, individual, and student strives for. Thank you.